Have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? This is an old question. The Bible offers a deep journey into understanding faith, suffering, and divine justice. In the land of Uz, there lived a man named Job. His story is known as the greatest test of faith that anyone has ever had to face. Job was not a king or a prophet. He was simply a very good and righteous man. He had great respect for God and always stayed away from evil. He was the most honest and upright person on earth. But Job was not just a man of deep faith. He was also incredibly wealthy and successful in his life. His wealth was huge. He owned hundreds of lands full of cattle. He also had a large number of servants who worked for him in his house. Job was the most successful man in the entire eastern region. No one else could even compare to the amount of prosperity and abundance that he had. But his greatest and most beloved treasure was his family. He had 10 children in total, which included 7 sons and his 3 precious daughters. They all lived together in joy and harmony. They often celebrated with big feasts in their homes, enjoying everything that God had generously given to them. Yet, even with all his blessings, Job did not rest easily. He worried a lot. Every morning, he would wake up very early to pray. With steady and careful hands, he would offer burnt sacrifices for each one of his children. A worrisome thought always troubled his mind and his soul. He thought, perhaps one of my children has sinned against God. Maybe in their heart, they have cursed God without anyone knowing. This was his constant fear. Job understood something that very few people did. He knew that all of his blessings were very fragile and could be taken away from him at any moment. So, every single day, without ever failing, he prayed for them. He made sacrifices not because he was afraid, but out of his deep love for God. At that exact moment, someone was watching him from the heavens. Very soon, Job's perfect and happy world was about to completely fall apart and crumble. The heavens opened up to reveal an eternal court. The sons of God, who were powerful beings of light, presented themselves there before the throne of God. Among them, a shadowy figure walked with steady steps. It was Satan, who is known as the Wanderer, the Accuser, and the one who never stops. The Lord looked at Satan and spoke with a powerful voice. He asked him a simple question. Where have you come from on this day? Satan simply replied to the Lord, I have come from roaming all around the earth, from wandering back and forth through all of the different places. And it was true that he had seen everything. He had watched kings rise to power and then fall. He had seen great cities get built and then burn. He had watched as people's hearts changed. He saw men sell their souls for just a little bit of gold and saw good people become traitors. But among all the people on earth, there was one man who stood firm in his faith. The Lord knew this and spoke of him with confidence. The Lord asked Satan, Have you seen my servant Job? There is no one else like him on the entire earth. He is a truly blameless man. He is upright, he fears God, and he turns away from all evil. God continued. Satan then replied with a challenging question of his own. Satan retorted, Does Job fear God for no reason at all? You have always protected him and have blessed him in every possible way imaginable. You have built an invisible protective wall around him, Satan argued. You have safeguarded his home, his beloved family, and all of his wealth. Everything that he touches prospers, Satan said. Every sheep, every camel, and every servant does well. Are you surprised that he stays faithful to you? But just take away everything that he possesses, Satan challenged. Destroy all of his wealth and take away his children. Make him feel true ruin. And then you will see, Satan confidently declared to God, that he will curse you directly to your face when he has nothing left to lose. The challenge was officially set. The Lord considered the words of Satan. He then responded to the accuser with a very firm and clear voice. Everything that he has is now in your hands, God said. You have my permission. Only you must not harm the man himself, God commanded. A silent whisper spread through the heavenly court. The adversary, Satan, had been granted his request. A test of Job's faith was about to begin. Without any delay, Satan turned and vanished from the court. The challenge had been accepted, and Job's fate was now completely sealed. It was decided. His faith was about to endure the most brutal and difficult test that any man had ever faced in the history of the entire world. The very next day, everything seemed calm and peaceful at Job's house. His children were all gathered together at a feast, celebrating and laughing. In the fields, his oxen were plowing the soil, and the donkeys were grazing peacefully. The servants were busy taking care of all the herds. But then, disaster struck without any warning. A servant burst into Job's house, completely out of breath. He had a look of terror on his face. With a trembling voice, he announced the terrible news. "Master, the Sabaeans attacked us. They took your oxen and donkeys and killed the other servants. I am the only one who was able to escape to come and bring you this news," the servant finished. A cold chill ran down Job's spine. Before Job could even respond, another man burst in, panting heavily. "Master, a fire fell from the sky. It was like a storm of flames. Your sheep and all of your shepherds have been burned up," the second messenger said. "Nothing at all remains. Only I escaped to tell you." Job could barely breathe. Fire from the sky? Was this some kind of judgment from God? Was it a terrible sign? He was filled with confusion. But then, another messenger burst in, almost stumbling with desperation. "Sir, the Chaldeans attacked us in 3 different groups. They have stolen your camels. Your servants have all been killed by the sword," the third messenger cried out. "Only I was able to escape to tell you what has happened." Job felt as if the ground was opening up right beneath his feet. Everything that he owned, his entire legacy, was now reduced to nothing but ashes. But the worst news was still yet to come. A 4th messenger entered the room. He did not speak at first, but his face said it all. "Sir, your children?" the messenger began. Job clung to his seat, his heart pounding with a terrifying and horrible feeling of what was to come. "Your children were at the eldest son's house, eating and drinking. A great wind came from the desert and struck the house from all 4 corners. The house collapsed on all of them," the messenger said, his voice full of sorrow. "They all perished. Only I escaped to bring you this news." Job heard nothing else after that. The world seemed to stop moving. The weight of his sorrow pulled him down into a deep and dark place. In just a single instant, he had lost absolutely everything. He lost every one of his possessions, and his entire family was now gone from him. Yet, Job did not cry out in anger. He did not curse himself, and he did not curse God. Instead, he rose up slowly from his seat. With hands that were trembling, he tore his robe. Then, with a very solemn expression, he took a knife and shaved all the hair from his head. This was an act of deep mourning and surrender. He was acknowledging that his life, his power, and his fortune had all been reduced to nothing. Then he fell to the ground. He pressed his face into the dirt and he worshipped God. His voice, broken by grief, echoed in the silence. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will return there." His faith, though tested, was still completely and totally intact. And then Job declared his unwavering trust. "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord," he said. This is the greatest lesson in faith. Job had just lost everything he cared about, but instead of rebelling, he surrendered completely to his loss. There was no complaint from him. There was no demand for an explanation. Job did not understand why it was happening, but he still trusted God. He bowed down and worshipped. This was his greatest victory. Job's faith held him up through the disaster, and it grew even stronger than before. Days passed, and the heavens opened once again. The heavenly court gathered, and Satan appeared there among the sons of God one more time. God asked him the same question as before. Satan said he had been roaming the earth. God then pointed out that Job had remained faithful. Despite all that you took from him, he still maintains his integrity, God said. You incited me to ruin him without any good reason. This was a humiliation for Satan, but he was not ready to give up yet. He stepped forward and said, "Skin for skin. It's different now. A man will give up everything that he has just to save his own life." Satan argued with a great deal of confidence in his words. "Stretch out your hand and touch his flesh and his bone," Satan challenged the Lord, "and you will see how he curses you to your face." The challenge was issued once again. God knew Job's heart. "He is in your hands," God declared, "but you must not take his life." Satan descended in a fury. He could not destroy Job's riches or family again. This time, he would strike Job's own body with a terrible illness. Job was suddenly ravaged by a horrible disease. His skin was covered in open, festering sores from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. An intense pain enveloped him like a shroud. A fever consumed him, and the itching was like a fire burning deep within his own flesh. He could not walk without his body aching terribly. He could not sleep. All that he could do was sit in the dust and ashes. He was broken, forgotten, and disfigured. Job took a piece of broken pottery and began to scrape himself with it, trying to find some relief. His wife remained by his side. She had watched him lose everything. Now she saw her husband reduced to what looked like a living corpse. Her heart was torn apart, and she had reached her limit. She approached him with tears in her eyes, and her voice was trembling as she spoke. "Do you still hold on to your integrity?" she asked him in despair. "You should just curse God and die," she told her suffering husband. This was the final blow. The enemy could not make Job blaspheme, so he used the voice of his broken wife to try and tempt him. Job closed his eyes. He knew his wife was broken too, but his own faith did not waver. He looked up at her and replied, "You speak like a foolish woman would," he said to her. "What? Shall we accept only the good from God and not accept the bad?" Job did not fall. He stood firm in his faith, even in the middle of his relentless and unending physical and emotional pain and suffering. The news of Job's tragedy spread. 3 of his longtime friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, heard the news and were completely horrified by it. They set out together to see their friend Job. They wanted to comfort him, to cry with him, and to try to understand what happened. But nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to see. From a distance, they saw a figure sitting among all the ashes. His body was covered in sores, and his eyes were lost in emptiness. They stared at him, trying to recognize him, but they could not. This could not be Job, the most respected and prosperous man. This man was just a shadow of who he once was. Their hearts broke. They wept loudly. Their grief was so great that they tore their clothes as a sign of their mourning. They threw dust over their heads. For 7 days and 7 nights, they all sat together in complete and total silence. They understood that the deepest sorrow cannot be comforted by words. Then the silence was shattered. Job opened his mouth and he cursed the day that he was born. He did not curse God, but his own life. "May the day of my birth perish," he cried out with a broken voice. "Let the moment I was conceived vanish completely from all of history." His friends were shocked. He wished that he had never existed at all. "Why didn't I perish in the womb?" he asked in agony. "For what I feared most has now befallen me," Job cried. His friends listened in a stunned silence to the words of his deep despair. Eliphaz, the oldest friend, spoke first. He said that an innocent person has never perished. His logic was that God only punishes the wicked. His words hinted that Job must have done something wrong to deserve his suffering. He suggested that Job's own pride might have blinded him to his faults. Bildad spoke next, also trying to explain Job's suffering. He said that God is always just and does not forsake righteous people. He suggested that if Job's children had died, it must have been because they had sinned. For him, the solution was simple. Job needed to repent. Zophar, the third friend, was the harshest of all. He told Job that he was a fool for insisting on his own innocence. He showed no compassion. He sneered at Job and said that Job's punishment was actually less than what he really deserved for the sins he must have secretly committed. Job's patience was gone. He felt betrayed by his friends. He knew he was upright, so if he couldn't find justice from men, he would ask God. Job lifted his face to the heavens and called out to God. "My God," he cried, "why do you treat me as if I am your enemy?" Suddenly, the wind began to rise, turning into a great whirlwind. From the storm, God's powerful voice thundered, and he spoke directly to Job. God did not explain Job's suffering. Instead, he questioned Job. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?" God asked, revealing his immense power. Faced with God's glory, Job understood. He repented in dust and ashes. God restored Job's life, giving him double what he lost and a long, blessed life.